Welcome to the Release Show. I'm your host, Brittany Skyers. On today's show, we have Khia Glover. Khia is a licensed social worker and therapist turned parenting coach who has been working with children and families in various ways for over 10 years. She is now taking what she learned as well as her experiences to support parents in raising mentally healthy children and enhancing their relationships with their child. Ultimately, she is a goal-oriented woman with a heart that seeks to develop society by improving the lives of family. Let's welcome Khia Glover. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. Pushing through the university to obtain a bachelor's degree is a difficult task for most Americans, let alone acquiring a master's degree in the desired field. Please tell us what motivates you to obtain a master's degree in social works.
Yeah, so I began because I started out social work because my family adopted this amazing little boy, and he is my whole heart. So I knew that that's what I wanted to do since I was 17, I think. I was like a junior in high school. So I might have been like 16. And in order to become a therapist, I had to do a master's. And I was like, well, this is what I have to do to meet the goal because it's not always easy. You know, you finish school and you're like, oh, I'm tired.
Yes.
But you have to think about what's coming later. Like, what is your ultimate goal? And so that's what I decided to do.
Well, that's great. So, how is your adopted brother?
He is awesome. He's now 17.
Okay.
We have had him, he started coming to stay with us when he was 2.
Okay.
And so 15 years, and he's good. He's working now. He's a senior in high school and, you know, spoiled. Somebody may or may not be me.
That's so cool. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, women constitute 81.6% of social workers. Why do you think women dominate this sector?
We are nurturers, and that is really what social work is when you're doing it right, is caring for the hearts of people. Men also have been kind of pushed into other fields. So it's just like with teaching. A lot of teachers now are women, and you know, I think men a lot of times get pushed into other fields that are considered more manly, whatever that means. But I think, you know, we are such nurturers and we automatically have that heart for people. And I think that's what really drives us to those kinds of positions.
I agree with you. Social workers come in various forms, such as a school social worker, substance social worker, clinical social worker, etc. What was your primary factor that compelled you to become a parenting coach?
So I have been a teacher in different areas. I have done therapy. I like the work of therapy, but I don't like having to diagnose people all the time. I understand that sometimes it is helpful and it guides practice and things like that. But a lot of times, the diagnosis that we give is often more for us and to know, okay, what am I going to do? What kind of therapy models am I going to use with this client because they have this diagnosis? But I don't think everybody needs a diagnosis to be, you know, to get help. And so I really didn't like that, having to put that stigma on people. I also have seen in working with kids, a lot of times I always tell my clients at the beginning of sessions, I am going, regardless of how old they are, I'm going to respect their privacy as much as I can. So unless they're in harm's way or anything like that, then I'm not going to tell you what happened in a session without them knowing. So I tell my clients, if there is something that comes up that I feel like your parents need to know, we can have that conversation together. And I let the parents know that from the very beginning as well, because I think that has to be respected. So I see a lot of parents that kind of overreact, and I love being an advocate for children. That's kind of what has always been the foundation. And so being a parent coach, I'm able to use some of the things that me and my clients that are minors, that we talk about, that they express about their parents and things like that, and take that and say, okay, this is what's going on. So as much as I like, children really are my heart, I understand that you got to kind of get the parents on board with a few things in order to truly make a difference.
I agree with you on that 100%. You obviously possess a great deal of potential because the mental energy and self control required to be a successful parenting coach is undeniably high. What other career would you have chosen if coaching was not on the menu?
I wanted to be a journalist. That was my thing for a really long time. Is I swore I was going to write for Ebony magazine. I had all of them. I would create my own magazines, and like I would cut pictures out of other magazines and design them how I wanted on like construction paper. So for a really long time, that is what I wanted to do, was journalism. And then, like I said, we got my brother, and I was like, okay, well, I guess God is going to make a way so that I'm able to write, which is still a love of mine, and do this over here. I believe that he's going to tie it together, and that's exactly what he has done.
That's amazing. So you used to make your own magazines. How cool. That's so creative.
Like I would go rewrite captions and all of that, and pull different hairstyles that I liked and put and organize them as if it were a magazine, like putting all these hair colors in one section, all these different kinds of cuts or lengths in this section. Yeah, it was a whole big deal.
That's so cool. All that creativity. Do you still do it now?
No.
You don't have enough time, right?
No.
It's expected to encounter obstacles on your way to success. What are the biggest challenges that you faced in your career as a parenting coach?
Oh, I'd say the biggest obstacle is me, getting out of my own head, letting go of, oh, what if they say this? What if they say that? I do not have children yet. However, I do believe that God has given me the experiences, the knowledge, the expertise to truly make a difference and help. And so I have to get out of my head, oh, they're going to say, you don't have kids. How can you help me? They're going to say this. But the proof is that people have asked me questions. People have been seeking my services. So it's obvious that there's something there. God put this passion in my heart, and I am always learning and growing. And of course, listening to parents also, and like, how are things different than what I see as a social worker versus actually being in those situations. So the biggest thing has been getting out of my own head and my fear that they may not want these services, or all those negative things that come up. I just have to get past that and then conquer the world from there.
That's right. So what causes those negative thoughts? Is it something that you've experienced in your life, or is it just like the overwhelming daily task or anything like that?
I think sometimes it is what people have actually said, and that stuff tends to stick with you. That's why I always say be careful of what you're saying to your children. So sometimes it's reality, but I also have anxiety. So that causes a lot of not necessarily true thoughts, or causes me to overthink. And So that's typically what it is, and just feeling like, okay, am I really doing this? And, is this really what God wants me to do? But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, that's where it comes from, really.
Okay. So have you always suffered from anxiety, or is this just something new?
I think I've always suffered with it, but didn't really understand what it was or recognize it. I had my first panic attack when I was a freshman in college. And so since then is when I've really noticed it, and it's kind of grown from there, unfortunately. I've also learned tools to not have it, like, for it to not be so bad, but I think it was always there. I just didn't have a name for it. But my first panic attack was when I was a freshman in college.
Oh, okay. So if you're suffering with anxiety yourself, how are you able to help out your parents and kids who are suffering with those types of mental illnesses as well?
Yeah, so because I'm able to come and not just bring book knowledge to what I share, but personal experience. So sometimes parents come to me and their children have anxiety, and they're like, "What is this?" Or "I don't understand," but I'm able to not just tell them what I read in a book about anxiety, but no, this is really how it feels. This is what goes on in the mind, and come from experience. And a lot of times, when because I struggle with depression as well, and a lot
Mm.
of times I could be depressed all day, go in to see a client, they give me life for that hour or whatever, however many hours I'm seeing clients, and it's like I'm alive again in those moments. And I might shut right back down right after, but they really give me a reason to get up and do what I do and to fight through it, because at the end of the day, I can take care of myself later, but they need me now. So I believe that those things add to what I'm able to provide, not take from.
And I truly believe that because I remember when I was actually going through depression and having anxiety attacks as well. Being around other people was like the best thing ever. Like I really needed to be around people. Now after those people went home, it was a
Yeah.
different story because you. So I like how you said when your patients come in, you deal with them and you're there for them to support them for their needs, but then you might go back into that state of depression afterwards, but it helps you for that like hour session that you have with them. And that is so true.
Yeah, sometimes it helps, it was just what I needed. And sometimes, because I truly believe, as being a Christian therapist,
Mhm.
that God will sometimes use words to say to my clients, and it's exactly what I needed. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, that was for me too? Okay.
Yes.
So sometimes that is a part of my healing and my coping skills, is doing that for other people.
That is such a great point because I remember like sitting inside of church, right? And the pastor's like talking, and I'm like, he's talking directly to me.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he's talking to me, like, God sent him to talk to
Yeah.
me today. So I've definitely had that feeling before too. What advice do you have for people out there who are inspired by your activities and inspired to become a social worker as well?
Go for it. I love social work. It's such a broad field. I literally could get a job in any field doing what I do. Um, it's it's sometimes hard. You really have to take care of yourself, making sure that you are well prepared, not just to deal with people in sessions, but okay, how am I going to deal with myself afterwards, and what I've heard, the things that I've seen, and not take on all these different stories, all of these different things. How am I going to not take that home with me? And so, working on your self care is extremely, extremely important. People burn out from this career all the time because it's difficult. You hear some of the wildest things and some of the saddest stories, but remember that you're there to help. You're just a stepping stone in their healing journey. And so you have to really gather yourself and make sure you're taking care of yourself.
I agree. Self-care is something that we all need to take into consideration. Sometimes we get so busy with the world and daily duties that we don't think about ourselves. We're so busy trying to keep up with the world and make sure we're doing everything for everybody else besides ourselves. And so self-care is definitely number one on my list going forward. The Bible advises parents not to spare the rod, else they spoil the child. What's your opinion on this form of discipline and discipline in general?
Oh my goodness. I am not a proponent of physical discipline. I think that we've also kind of twisted that scripture. Discipline is important, and that is all throughout the Bible, obviously. But discipline also isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's really teaching, leading someone. Just like we are disciples, it means that we are following. So the act of discipline is for teaching and instruction. And I think when you're disciplining your child, remember your relationship and be mindful of those moments. Because what you do, how you react, how you discipline, it is going to carry out more than just that one moment. It's more than just getting one behavior to stop, but it's going to carry over with them. So if you are making sure that relationship stays intact as well. So I often tell parents, after a discipline, you need to make sure that you're going in and recovering that relationship, spending time and explaining those different things to them. Like, why did this happen? What could have been done differently so that I didn't get in trouble? But I also think that a lot of times we discipline kids out of our own anger and our own frustration, and that this caused me to feel a certain way, rather than looking at, well, why did this child do this? What were those circumstances? And so sometimes discipline is taken overboard because we're thinking about ourselves rather than the child. So that is like a fine line that you really have to be careful with.
I agree with you. But the discipline part, I don't believe in physical discipline, right? Mm-hmm. But I do believe sometimes you do have to discipline your kids because it's very important that they understand right from wrong. Mm-hmm. And, when kids go from moving from the small age to teenager, you have that time where they start to do all kinds of crazy things, right? So I think it's best to kind of nip things in the bud around that age so that when they get in high school, they understand if I do something, I'm going to get in trouble. So I don't even want to do that, right? Yeah. And I know we've all been kids and we've all done things to be better than what you were. So you want to try to guide them as much as possible in the right direction so that they don't make those same bad decisions and things that you did growing up. So I am kind of the hard, strict kind of person when it comes to certain things, because I truly believe sometimes you have to get into these kids' heads. But I do give that loving part too. You know what I mean? So I do recover with that. But I am definitely like, especially when it comes to school, I'm very like, when it comes to school. So I don't know, like all my life I've loved school and I've always been so passionate about it. So that's just like my thing, like school. This is the foundation we're giving you and we're going to support you on. Then you need to make sure that you're focused and taking so we can help you be successful in your future, Right. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I never want it to be misunderstood that I'm saying, oh, discipline is bad. Discipline is necessary. It's the way that it's carried out that
Mhm.
is important. And making sure that, okay, am I disciplining in this certain way to fill my ego and
Mhm.
because I'm inconvenienced or because I'm upset, or does discipline actually match the action that happened? So,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. Discipline is teaching. That's all it is. And so we just have to be careful about the way that that is done.
And that's true because I remember growing up, I felt like my mom was so hard on me certain times because she was upset and unhappy. So I thought maybe she was taking out her pain on me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be like that. And then sometimes I kind of feel like I do that in some ways, and I kind of like, no, you know what I'm saying? I have to like push myself away from that. Like, no, this is not what you want to do. Like if I've had a bad day at work and you come home and the kids do something, it's like, and so you have to, take a step back. And I do think I have some of my mom in me, and Lord knows I want to work on that and get that out. I do see that myself. But like I said, I try to recover it with like the love and touch and understanding for them to understand where I'm coming from, because discipline is big. Because if you let kids just do whatever, they're going to do whatever, and you're going to find them in a position where you may not be able to get them out, and you
Yeah.
don't want to find yourself in that position. Some parents will confess that a child's teenage years are the most difficult time of parenting. What state of mind do you recommend parents should have when approaching their teenage child?
That they are growing up and you have to start to loosen those reins. At the teenage years, they're very expressive through their clothes, through their hair, through the words that they say, the music that they listen to. And so I think it's really important that you allow them that expression, reminding them, of course, to always be respectful and teaching them how to be respectful, not just, oh, that was disrespectful, but teaching them, okay, you could have done this a little differently by, A, B, and C, but giving them that space to really learn who they are, because those years are super, super important for going into adulthood. And so those years, they are, experimenting with different things, whether that's just their clothes, it may be they're starting to date, things like that. Keep that communication open. And a lot of times, teenagers will try to shut you out, but
Mm-hmm.
I believe that when they can tell that you're genuine, and if you've been building that relationship from a time that they were young, then they will start to open up a little bit more. So allowing them to express themselves, not telling them what they should think, how they should think, but asking, well, why do you think that way? Um, be patient with them, because they're still learning. I think once they get to teenagers, it's like, well, you're old enough, you should understand, da, 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 da. But they don't. Some things they do, but they are also still learning. They're still children, and they
Mm-hmm.
still need that room to learn and grow. Friendships are super important during this time. I actually have a blog post about parenting teenagers, and one thing that I mentioned on there was, when they're playing their video games and stuff like that, or they're on their phone, stop yelling at them to get off your phone, get off your phone, get off your phone. When you're on yours, socialization and building those other peer relationships are extremely important at that age, because if they weren't ever on their phone, they weren't ever talking to anybody, you'd be concerned, or you should be concerned if they're not talking to anybody, and they're really staying to their self all the time. So those are things that they like to do. Give them the space to do it. Join in with them. Hey, you're playing this game on the Xbox. Let's play this together. Maybe not while their friends are on. Please don't do that. They're going to say no. But maybe set aside a different time to play together and build that relationship, see why they like the game so much and things like that, rather than just, oh, they always on that game. Well, their friends are there, their friends are playing, their friends are talking about it at school, and they want to be able to be in those conversations. So just give them the space to still be a kid, talk to them, allow them to express themselves while teaching them to do that respectfully.
Okay, so I have a friend who complains about her son being on the game, some game he plays with his friends all day and night.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like after school, it's like he's on there till like 11 o'clock at night. And she complains about this. And she sent me this video of this like gamer on YouTube. And he was saying the same thing that you're saying. And we both were kind of looking at each other while we were listening to this video, like, he crazy, like he is crazy, you know. But I guess I get it, you know. You know, they need that time. That's the time that they need, you know. But we're so like, oh, they're on this game thing all day long, attached to this screen. Like you want them to get away from that, you know. Because like my youngest daughter, she's always on this iPad. Soon as she get out of school, she's on this iPad watching the YouTube video. She plays Roblox now. And it's like, just put that thing down. I feel like it's frying your brain, you know? I'm sorry. I'm still going to have to tell her to get off of that thing. Like, you know, she's only 6, you know, she's only 6. And then
it's okay to set like some time limits, especially when they're younger, because you know, you do want them doing other activities and stuff like that. But understand, so I was sent a video today of Iman Schubert explaining, you know, parents supporting their children in different activities that they like to do. And he brought up video games. He was like, you know, that they could be the next gamer or the next person that creates a whole new game and makes millions of dollars off of this. And here you are just upset that they're playing. And understanding that not everybody will go that route. But I have a client right now that absolutely loves gaming. He wants it to be a career. He's actually entered into different contests and won money and stuff like that. But he feels bad about telling his mom. He's scared to tell her because he's always like, get off that game. You're doing too much and trying, you know, and all of that and trying to connect it with these other mental health issues that he has going on. And he's like, but that's really what helps me. It calms me. I'm able to make money doing this. And she just doesn't see it that way. So that's another part of making sure that communication stays open rather than just fussing about it. Well, what is it? You know, you play this game a lot. What is it that you really like about this game? What are your favorite parts? How does this work? Show some interest rather than just shutting it down. Because the adults, if you look at how much are you on your phone and scrolling through Facebook and Instagram or playing your games on your phone, I have literally watched. So we were sometimes on Saturdays, I will go to my parents' house and watch movies with them. Every single one of us, you know, my brother is the youngest. So all of us are on our phones. And my mom included, my dad, my sister, me, all on our phones, my brother, and my mom tells my brother to get off his. And I was like, every single one of us are on our phones, and you, including you, and you're telling him to get off his. Why? What difference is that going to make? Why are you on him, excuse me, when everybody else is on theirs? Why is he the one that needs to get off?
That's right. I agree with that. I do. Yeah, I used to find myself on my phone all the time, right? But I think my problem was more of like I was stressed out, but I didn't know how to like say it or talk about it, right? So I used my phone to like consume that void, right? And I didn't, it's not like I wanted to be on my phone. Like it would irritate me. I wouldn't say anything, but it would irritate me to be on my phone. It would irritate me inside of me for being on my phone like that. But I felt like that void or whatever I was going through at that moment, it was being fed. And that's what I needed to be fed before I would lose my mind, right? Yeah. I mean, constantly just on it, just to be on. Don't even want to look at what's on there. Literally just on it. You know what I mean? Crazy. I mean, seriously, crazy, crazy. And I remember my husband, he complains about it all the time. You're always on your phone. Da, 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 da. And it's like, I really don't even want to be on this phone. You have like no idea. Like, I don't even want to be on this thing. I am really like using this for this void that I'm dealing with. You know what I mean? This anxiety and stress and depression that I'm dealing with. And so it was crazy because before COVID happened, I was super stressed out. And I gained a lot of weight, like a lot of weight, you know, and I would look at myself in the mirror and I was just like, you know, and I felt like I would always be on my phone. I would always eat. I would stop and get McDonald's. I would do all kinds of things because I was just not happy. And I didn't know how to tell or deal with that. And so I would just stay on my phone and eat all the time. You know, like it was crazy. And so now I pull myself away from it. I have like a lot of different other things. So a lot of times when I'm on my phone, I'm responding to an email or I'm looking up something or that sort of whatever. Sometimes I get on Instagram, but I don't really get on there that much because it doesn't do anything for me anymore. I just kind of post things like that. But yeah, we need to stay off these phones though. And I get where you're coming from. You know, like sometimes I would go out to dinner with my husband and, you know, people would be on their phones and you look and it's like, wow, you know, but like we need to get off these phones. We need to socialize with the people that we care about and love and do that while we're able to do that, you know? So I do think you guys as a family should all put the phones down.
Yeah. And it's one thing, you know, if she said, okay, let's all get off our phones and watch this movie, and we hadn't even started the movie yet. I think we were still picking a movie, which with us can take 30, 45 minutes. So I think we were still picking what we were going to do or what we were going to watch, but it wasn't, okay, everybody, let's all put our phones down. It was, you put your phone down. And I was like, but why? Why? Everybody else is on theirs too. Why single him out like that?
Right. No, she shouldn't have singled him out, but you know how moms can be at times. Yes. Since you've been working as a parenting coach for roughly 10 years, what's the most common problem that parents often have with raising their kids?
Ooh, man, I would say communication is a huge one. I often hear, oh, kids don't have feelings, kids don't have stress. You're not grown, you don't pay no bills. What are you stressing about? And they're not really talking to their children to understand what's going on in their world. And I think that would alleviate so many different issues. It's just you're expecting one thing, but they're on a completely different level. And it's important for you to talk to them about where they are because kids do experience stress. It's like you are not only stressed about bills and things like that, they have other things that they are stressed about as well. So maybe school is hard, maybe they're having issues with their friends or, you know, all these different things. It's not fair to diminish their feelings and their emotions just because they don't pay bills. And that's probably what makes me cringe the most. And I'm like, no, they do have things going on. Just because it's not on the same level that you experience things they're still learning and growing. So think back to when you were that age and what were some of the things that bothered you. And then if you come from that place of understanding, okay, you know what? When I was 15, 14, those things did bother me. Even though it's not as big of a deal now, or I've learned to deal with it, still learning to remember what that was like for you.
Yeah, so we have a 12-year-old as well. And so she's more of like the quiet one, kind of, she keeps to herself. And the 6-year-old is kind of wild. But the 12-year-old, I get where you're coming from when you say that kids need that time and you need to understand them, and their actions and stuff, because a lot of times, like her being so quiet, you often think like, what's going on there? Like, what's going on with you? You want to support them, but then when they don't want to tell you what's going on, it's like, what do you do in that case? So, and I know as you get older, sometimes you just want to be left alone. But sometimes you can identify when there's things are wrong, or something is going on with the kid as well. So, with your kid as well. So, so what do you do when you have like such a quiet kid, right? They don't really open up to you like they should, right? What are some things that you can do to help them? Like even taking them to a therapist, they really didn't want to open up to the therapist. Like what are some advice or some kind of like things we could do to help kind of have those conversations with our soon-to-be teenager?
Well, some ideas that I've seen and encourage parents to do is you can have a system where maybe they are less comfortable actually vocalizing what's going on. And so maybe they can write it down and put it in a certain spot, or things like that. Give them other ways to express themselves. Also, just building the relationship and having fun together, doing activities together, not so much, what's wrong with you? Why are you so quiet? And like the hounding, because that can shut them down even more. But just having like, okay, hey, if you want to talk about what's going on, I'm here. And you can. I'm open whenever you're ready. But a lot of times when that pressure is there, they kind of shut down a little bit more. And maybe encouraging them, okay, if it's not me, and maybe you don't feel comfortable talking to this therapist, this professional, have somebody, an adult that you are good with talking to. I didn't really tell my parents what was going on, but I did have certain adults that I would talk to about different things. And sometimes the adults would be like, okay, we got to talk to your parents about this. And they would help me have those conversations or, whatever. But sometimes my parents just weren't the ones I wanted to talk to. And part of that was the way that they responded to things. So I knew that my parents would overreact to everything. And it would always come back. Like if I would try to be honest with them about a situation, it always came back to bite me in the butt later. And it would be used against me later. Okay, well, now you can't do that. Now you can't hang out with this person. And it's like, but I was trying to just be honest and tell you, what was going on. But now I feel like I'm being punished for it. So I'm just not going to tell you anything. So being aware of how you respond to different things, and we talk about parents that, oh, well, I'm not your little friend. And I did another podcast interview with another young lady, and we talked about that. But sometimes you do need to kind of be on that friend level to feel comfortable. And that doesn't mean being disrespectful or that, we're the same age or anything like that. But who would you feel more comfortable talking to and expressing things with? Your friends or your parent that can also punish you for things that you're saying. So you just have to be careful and be open-minded with the things that they tell you and not be so ready to jump and do certain things, whether that's solve the problem, punish them for what you've said, overreacting, kind of keep it, okay, I'm receiving what you're saying. Let's talk about this. Not necessarily me as being in mom mode all the time.
Okay, that's some great advice. And I do, you know what? I feel like communication starts when you're young, right? So, like, you kind of built that foundation with your parents, right? So, if you don't build that foundation with them, it's kind of hard for you to communicate with other people in life, right? Me, for example, I have it bad, like seriously bad, right? I didn't know how to communicate with my mom because I felt like she was always angry. And like you said, we'll respond to certain things the same way. So my mom and I used to write each other letters, right? Back and forth. And I think that kind of hindered me from like being able to communicate with people in general, seriously. Like even as a wife, you know, my husband wants me to say certain things. It's like I don't even know how. You get what I'm saying? I don't, it's hard, it's crazy. Like I can type you a text message or I can write you a letter, but I literally cannot vocalize how I feel. And it's like so annoying sometimes. But as I go back and kind of look at my life, I'm like, this is how it was. Like I never really vocalized how I feel. I remember my dad would come and pick me up and we would go driving. He would just want to have a talk with me. And literally he would be like, Brittany, what's wrong with you? And I'd be like this. Be like, Brittany, you have to tell me what's going on. And literally ignore him.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't know how to communicate. You know what I'm saying? Like I really didn't know how to communicate. And it's like really bothered me. I mean, messed me up to today. You know, I really don't know how to vocalize how I feel. And then if I vocalize how I feel and you go off or you get upset, then that just takes me back to that same place, right? That's it. You get what I'm saying? So it's like if you start like raising your voice to get mad at me because I'm like not really saying what I need to say, but I'm saying like it's gonna shut me right back down, right? Yeah. And that's how I am. Like I don't want that. Like I want you to appreciate what I'm trying to tell you because it's so hard for me to even do this.
Right.
You know, it's hard. And I don't think people understand how hard it is personally for myself to say certain things because of my upbringing. Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine writing your mom letters and that's how you communicated about certain things. You know what I'm saying? And I still, to this day, really don't know how to vocalize or communicate with people in certain situations.
Yeah.
So I really think communication with your kids is very important because they're going to end up taking that along and that curse. I mean, yeah, you can break the curse, but it's going to take time to kind of like understand yourself and how to communicate with others because I really have that bad, you know, I really do. And I would love to get past it, but I'm always looking for somebody to react in a negative way. Because that's all of what I was taught growing up is that if you express yourself, somebody's going to like go off on you. You know what I mean? It's going to scream and holler. So that's what's hindered me from really expressing myself.
Yeah, that's a big part of why I enjoy parent coaching because you realize those things from your childhood. And that's why I say it's more than just this one moment. It carries a long time. So then we end up in our 50s, 60s, 70s, still struggling with these same issues and passing it on to generations. And it's like, but so much of that could be changed from when we're young. So I can relate to a lot of what you just said that number one, I was much better at writing. So sometimes I'll be on the phone with somebody and we're supposed to be having this conversation and I'm stuck. Then we get off the phone, you know what? I'm texting it to you. You know what? But because I couldn't express myself to my parents, I was always viewed as being disrespectful. I would work so hard at going to them, I would practice. Like, okay, you got to say it like this. You got to take your time so that they're not thinking that you're being disrespectful, even though every single time, no matter what, nope, you're being disrespectful. And so it was never a teaching, okay, this is what you could do differently. And I don't feel like they were really listening for the message I was trying to, put across. But instead, they were so worried about what my tone was and stuff like that, which is important. But you're not teaching me in that situation when you're shutting me down. So then I
Right.
go to journaling, because journaling, nobody can shut me up. I can say it however I feel it. I don't have to worry about anybody else's feelings. So I'm the same way, is I can write so much better how I feel than vocalizing it. So maybe with your child, they feel better writing it, but you want to teach them to socialize as well and to be able to vocalize it. So maybe have them write it out and then read it to you. So they get comfortable with their own words, but at the same time are able to do it in a way that's more comfortable and a less confrontational. Um, because I was that same way where it was always like the fussing and yelling and screaming and all that. And now it's to the point where even in jobs, when supervisors would just correct simple behaviors, I get so defensive because it puts me back in that place of that little girl who is helpless, who can't express herself, who is always in trouble. And it's like, Kai, you're not in trouble, but we just need to figure out a solution for this issue that's going on. And so I've really started to notice that more now. It's like, dang, like, but it's so hard as an adult to get out of that without having like a parent to teach you and train you out of it, or to not even have to deal with that at all because your parents weren't fussing and, all that stuff all the time. So it definitely goes into adulthood. And that's why I say raising mentally healthy children and all of that starts at home.
It sure does. And so I'm so happy somebody can identify with something that is going on with me like this. I felt like something was wrong with me for so long. Like, I want to get this out, but I don't know how to get it out. And I'm good with writing, and I'll let you know, like, and I used to, write in my diary and do all those things too. But I can be in my car and I can say it all day long. But as soon as I face that person, it's like,
yeah, you shrink back to that little girl, and other people around you don't understand it because they weren't there. They don't know where that comes from. But once you understand, okay, this is where that comes from number one, you can communicate that to the other person. So, like with your husband, you know what? I'm trying to get these words out, but because of this is how I feel when I'm trying to express myself to you. But also now you can start working on changing it because you know where that comes from. So I've used affirmations a lot more lately. And when I get to that moment, I'm like, okay. It's okay. It's going to be fine. They're not condemning you. They're not putting you down, but they have to be a supervisor. That's their job, is to help and lead and guide you. It's going to be fine. Breathe. And so that kind of helped a little bit because I would really get anxious. Like when they say, Khia, we need to talk to you. Oh God. Like, so then my head is filled with all these different things. So then I'm defensive because I feel like I always have to protect myself because no one else really, I felt like, was protecting me. But now it comes off as defensive to another person. So you do what you can to work on it.
And see, I didn't really feel like I had like that person to go to talk to about these things that were bothering me. You know what I mean? So like, it wasn't like I could go to someone else or whatever the case is. So I just harbored it in for so many years. Then I wrote a book, and then it's like, these things still come to haunt me here and there. You know what I mean? Even though you think you're past this, something will happen and it'll bring those things back up. But I'm going to get through this, Khia. I'm going to get through
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much for your amazing advice you've given us. Thank you for being on the show. Can you please let everybody know how they can reach out to you?
Yes. At Notes by Khia on everything. I do have a Parents Raising Mentally Healthy Children group on Facebook. And you can reach out to me to get that link or follow through at Notes by Khia on Facebook as well. And so, yeah, and that's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those at Notes by Khia. And then my website is notesbykhia.com.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to the Release Show. I'll see you next time. Bye.
All right.